What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Thank you for joining me today. I've got a pretty special video for you guys. On this trip, we're going to be going out and trolling for cutlass fish, and I'm getting out with Lenny from Rudeau's Fish Talk magazine. I write the reports for them, and we're also taking out Andrew Choi, who is the founder of the Ikejime Federation. I will let Andrew give you guys the details. The video is going to start out with an interview I did with him out on the boat, explaining what Ikejime is, the process, and the benefits of it. It's going to be really informational. I highly recommend that you guys stick through that part of the video, learn some about what Ikejime is, and then we're going to get into some awesome fishing action. So with that being said, let's get into today's video.
Hi, my name is Andrew Choi. I'm the founder and the president of the Ikejime Federation. We're a company that's dedicated to improving the value proposition of every single fish that's caught here in the United States. We say that we are guided by tradition, but disciplined by science. And so we feel strongly that there's a lot of ground to cover for the U.S. fishing experience, that we can improve and compete with the best seafood in the world. That begins for us with fundamentals of the Ikejime method. Ikejime is a multi-step process, but it's also a sequence. And so there's a reason for why certain techniques take place before or after others. So step one of the Ikejime process begins with a brain spike that dispatches the fish as quickly as possible so as to minimize the unnecessary accumulation of lactic acid, cortisol in the blood, adrenaline in the muscle tissue. Those compounds have a flavor and they're off flavors, and they can actually disrupt the quality of the resulting protein when it's time to eat it. Second step is the bleeding protocol. It's also known as exsanguination. There's a lot of misconceptions about why you should bleed fish or when you should bleed fish. Bleeding fish really isn't about the visual appearance of a resulting fillet. Bleeding fish is about bacterial contamination. So because blood is one of the most nutrient-rich substrates in a vertebrate, if you leave the blood in the carcass, the fish will spoil from the outside in and from the inside out, because blood is distributed evenly throughout its vascular system. The third step is also known as Ikejime. That is the paralysis of the animal. So even though an animal may be brain dead, it can actually still fire its muscles. And that's because there's residual electrochemical energy that resides in the spinal cord. So by rupturing the spinal cord, you're actually shutting down the ability for the central nervous system to communicate with the muscle tissue. And that's really significant because if the muscle tissue continues to fire, it will deplete the energy and all of the cellular energy that remains in the muscle tissue. The moment at which cellular energy is completely exhausted in any vertebrate species is the moment at which rigor mortis sets in. And rigor mortis is one of these sort of mysterious things that a lot of anglers experience but don't quite understand what's happening or why it's happening or what the consequences of rigor are. As a scientific matter, we know that the temperature during which a carcass is in rigor has really, really significant effects on the quality of the meat. The other thing that is really significant is the speed at which rigor begins. It's really, really common to see folks, come back to the dock after only like a few hours, and they've got fish fully in rigor, and that's because that fish has expended every single bit of energy, including its cellular energy, by suffocating to death inside dark confines of a box. And that the muscles have stiffened to a point where it's actually created it's like a fiberglass matrix, and it's stiff. And if you, with force, actually shatter that matrix, you're actually creating tears all through the muscle tissue. And all of those tears create additional surface area for the unbled fish to then increase the opportunity for bacterial proliferation even more. So you've got sort of a hot fish, it's acidic, and it's also stiff and in rigor. And then once you force it down, you've created this intense opportunity for the bacterial colonization of the carcass, and they eat it before you do. So a lot of folks have to eat their fish really, really fresh because that bacteria is getting to it and starting to break it down unnaturally fast. One of the ways to prevent that is to also control temperature, and that's where the ice slurry comes in. So a lot of misconceptions about how to use ice and refrigeration on most people's like their average fishing trip. You'll see a lot of folks just kind of have a bed of ice in a cooler and they just plop the fish on top, but that fish actually isn't getting cooled. One side of the fish may be getting exposed to very, very cold ice, and oftentimes that ice is so large that you're basically rocks. It's on a rocky bed and it's slamming itself against a rocky bed, and again, sort of introducing a lot of microscopic tears and trauma to the muscle tissue, again, compromising the meat before it ever gets back to shore. The slurry actually gives the fish the opportunity to comprehensively envelop itself in a very, very cold environment that'll delay bacterial spoilage. It'll also control the temperature during which the fish does enter rigor mortis eventually, and it just preserves the integrity of the muscle tissue in a way that most Americans haven't seen before. And you know, a lot of people, I've encountered a lot of people that say, "Oh, I'd never be able to tell the difference," and I think that's selling yourself short, because everyone can tell the difference if given the opportunity to examine fish or fish fillets side by side, if given the opportunity to smell fish side by side. You know, you're given a nose for a reason. If that fish is smelling off, your nose is telling you shouldn't eat it, and I certainly wouldn't want to persuade you otherwise. If the fish does not smell off, then that's what you're supposed to be eating, and that is what Ikejime gives you the opportunity to experience. It gives you the opportunity for the first time to actually experience fish in an entirely different way.
Got a fish on. That didn't take very long.
It did not.
Sweet. Is that a paddle tail or a rattle trap?
That is on the rattle trap knockoff.
Oh, okay.
Let me duck around you this way. I want to get the pliers. Okay.
All right, pass the rod off. First ribbon fish, cool.
Didn't take long.
No, it didn't. Sweet. It's a hot rod today.
That's a little more.
Yeah.
They love that.
Oh, that's a nicer one.
Oh my God.
Thicker one.
See how it calms down on the pad?
Yeah. Is that a texture thing or?
Because now it's not feeling gravity.
Really?
Not as much anyway.
Yeah.
Right. See this? This is the seizure. Okay. Now I craned in, I can experience stress. Heart's still beating. Right here.
You could grab this way.
Okay, you see the
Yeah.
good sign.
This is the hot rod today.
They love that little thing.
And here he is.
Ooh, nice one.
Yeah. Oh. Lenny, have you tried to fillet these with an electric fillet knife, or are you just going straight blade?
I have not. I don't own an electric fillet knife. Is this one big enough?
That one looks pretty big.
It's a bigger one.
That is a big one. Looks like he's got his
belly's
gut full.
popping out too. Yeah.
Cutlass fish activity is kicking up, and we got some busting on bait over here. You guys can see the ospreys are in the area. We've got quite a few around us, and they are telling us where these fish are hanging out.
Oh, he's got one. Here, take it, take it.
We got a fish on in the back. Yeah, they're thrashing on bait right in front of us.
Yeah, that's what's going on last night. I think that is on the other side of this line. Yep, perfect, perfect, perfect. Nice job.
Man, this is fun. Feels like a decent one. Is this one of the rattle traps?
It is.
Is this the hot one from earlier?
Yep.
Man, these guys are fun. We're just trolling through this area and there's ospreys everywhere. There's probably every bit of 15 that have been diving and getting these cutlass fish, and we've started to see them thrash on bait a little bit. So Just like we thought, the bite has turned on. We just had to wait a little bit for it. And bam. Man, that's fun. Oh, middle one. We're in them thick now. Yeah, if you could coach me through it, that'd be great. And spike first.
Yep, spike first. So actually, yeah, you had it right. So there's always a balance point on a fish. Like, and this one's obviously like kind of off, but it's right here behind it. Here.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so preopercular line here. And so you want to go right to the top of the preopercular line. Yep, and into the skull.
Oh, and when he kicks like that, I know I hit it. He freaked out when I did that.
Yep, you're in there.
Okay.
So now he's insentient.
And then I'm gonna take the scissors and snip. Where exactly am I snipping in here?
You're gonna the isthmus through the gills.
Right there?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Oh, and there's the blood pumping. And then into the...
Yep, right in there.
Sweet.
Got one more for you.
There you go.
All right. It's a much bigger one. Lenny, how big have you caught them this year? This line up to here.
Bigger than the ones we're seeing today. Melissa got one last night that was actually like, whoa, that thing is significantly larger.
Yeah.
You got it. Nice. See,
And then,
you can let go.
yeah, and just done.
Yeah.
Give me that rod real quick, will you?
Oh, and there's the blood pumping. That is easy.
So if it were like a big ass tuna,
Yeah.
you can easily go in through the head.
Okay.
But this guy doesn't have like a whole lot of real estate up here.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go in through the tail, and it'll just be a little easier. So if this were a rockfish, you want to clear off some scales so that your knife can just touch skin.
Okay.
Right. And then what you want to do is you want to go through. And the last one I didn't do very well, but actually you want to fold it.
Okay, so you're not
This
cutting all
way.
the way through, you're just folding it over.
Exactly. This thing, that's a spinal cord. So now you know where the hole is.
So you're trying to thread right down that?
You want to go right down that hole, and it's tiny on these things. Oh, we're in there. Okay, so I'll let you finish it.
So just thread through?
Yep. Keep it open.
Oh, wow.
You're basically reanimating it.
Wow.
Yeah, sure are.
It's crazy that you can see it all the way up. So all the way up to here, basically? Or all the way up?
All the way to the brain. So you'll eventually hit the brain. Yep.
Yeah.
And then give it a couple of, just back and forth. Yeah. Well, now it's totally still. And then when it's totally still, you can take it out. And sometimes the whole spinal cord will come with it.
Really?
Yeah. It's just like a big piece of spaghetti.
Wow. So now this fish is ready to go on ice?
So just look at it now. So there's not a twitch.
Nothing.
Right, but that means that what you've done is you've preserved all that cellular energy in there, and that thing's not going into rigor anytime soon.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it can go in.
Wow. That is super neat.
So this is the skin of the ribbon fish. So it's still got that iridescence, still intact. I've broken it down into some sections. I've actually braided this as kind of a fun little application. But interestingly, the bones are very thin, and so these can be deep fried or eaten like chips. So we're gonna do a few of those first, just to get that out of the way. A little bit of Old Bay seasoning on.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Old Bay's good on everything.
All right, here we go. Trying the ribbon fish bones. Wow. Whoa.
That's wild.
It's just like a chip. You would never know. Look, except by looking at it, but it tastes delicious.
The first thing that I did was I scored the skin. So this skin has actually a lot of fat in it. And so this will allow the fat to escape and then kind of give this crispy consistency and a fried consistency to it. So it's like a little bit crispy on the outside. And so you can use different types of gas for torching things. A lot of people use butane. The problem with butane is it doesn't burn very hot. So fortunately for all the bros out there that like to do their own plumbing and brazing, you can use MAP gas because it burns a lot hotter and it doesn't leave a residue or a flavor behind it. So this is my preference for a torch. You can get one of these at any Home Depot. So what we're going to do is just kind of torch this up and crisp up that skin. I'm going to give it just a touch of soy sauce. Oh shit, that was not a touch. Dump that. A little bit of green onion. And I think utensils are overrated.
Oh my god. Can we do that again?
Wow. Wow.
That's on.
Right?
That's on.
Can you taste
Who said?
Can you taste how sort of fatty it is?
Oh my
it's very
God.
luxurious. It's buttery.
Yes.
Yeah.
You said it was going to change my life, and I think it may have just done that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I would encourage anyone who wants to take their seafood to a level that they've never experienced before, and actually most of the American public has never really experienced before. If that's interesting to you, I would strongly encourage you to try to learn this method. It's not that difficult. We've tried our best to try to make these specialized tools that are food safe, hygienic, authentically designed and purpose-built for this process and keyed to the American seafood experience. Try to make these available both through our website, but also through one of our partners, AFCO. And we've been making, a tremendous amount of progress with not only the recreational sport fishing community, but also with the commercial industry. I credit a lot of recreational anglers and sports anglers for helping to socialize this idea throughout both commercial and recreational fishing. I think it's really easy to take for granted how uniquely positioned you are to have access to seafood that most people will never lay their eyes on. And I always want people to, especially sport fishers, to take a big step back and zoom out and reevaluate the merits of what you're doing. You actually have this very, very unique skill, and that is to extract a live fish from an invisible body of water. And that is a skill that is easy to take for granted if you're an actual fisherman, but to your average person, that is very difficult. And so, most sport fishers can agree that there's a lot of time, a lot of study, a lot of dedication to a craft that is not easy. If you have that tendency to be dialed into a species or dialed into your gear and be meticulous and detail oriented about what you're doing, why you're doing it, take that all the way home, bring it to the plate. Once that fish comes over, finish the job. Don't be passive and mindless about what's actually really going to happen to that fish and what's really going to happen to the meat if you don't take the same level of commitment to the animal that you did to the fishing experience in the first place. I encourage all sports anglers to really think about how unique your access is to fish, what kind of voice you can be for your fishery, and the water column that you represent.